Today, friends, the Via Oceanus docks in the oldest city in the Americas, cobblestones the color of a bruised sky, a fort that has watched every ship that ever came through this harbor, and a tropical rainstorm that arrives exactly when it wants to. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, Walter Whitfield tells a story. When last we sailed, Reggie Ockhaffer invited Table 7 to a blind tasting at the Crow's Nest. 5 original cocktails, 2 judges, and an evening that turned out to be mostly about a story Daisy Holloway told, involving a sealed envelope and a painter in towels. The Via Oceanus has been running south and west since then, and this morning, through the round dining room windows, the 12 friends can see something they've never seen before: the old city of San Juan, Puerto Rico, its pastel walls catching the morning light, its forts standing at the edge of the sea exactly as they've been standing for 400 years. Marco Bellini appeared at breakfast with the particular energy of a man who has found a port he loves and cannot wait to share it. He arrived at Table 7 as the coffee was being poured, already in motion, already talking.
San Juan, friends, I need to tell you about San Juan. This is the oldest continuously inhabited European city in the Americas. The Spanish built El Morro in 1539. The blue cobblestones you walk on today are not painted. They're iron slag from old ship ballast. They go blue in the sun. The whole old city is a United States National Historic Site. Listen, this is not just a port. This is a place.
Marco, that is a very good speech. Loretta, are you hearing this? Iron slag.
I heard it, Buck. We're all sitting at the same table.
The fort at the tip of the peninsula, El Morro, is 6 levels of ramparts. From the top you can see every ship that comes into the harbor. Look, they've been able to do that since 1539.
The defensive geometry of the Spanish colonial fort system in the Caribbean is remarkably consistent. The use of promontory positioning to maximize field of fire on 2 water axes simultaneously. I've wanted to see El Morro for some years.
He has. He mentioned it in 2009 when we looked at cruises. He mentioned it again in 2010 and in 2011.
Is the food good in the old city?
Sal de Mofongo alone is worth the stop.
What's in it?
Mashed plantains, garlic pork cracklings, sometimes topped with...
I'm ready. Connie, I'm ready to go.
Sal, we haven't finished breakfast.
Okay. We finish breakfast first.
They were off the ship and onto the dock by 9:15, walking in the warm weight of Caribbean morning air. The old city already color in every direction. Yellow buildings, pink buildings, deep terracotta, all of it brilliant and specific in the way of places that have had centuries to decide what they are.
The colors are different here. It's the same sun, but the colors are different.
The buildings absorb it differently. Different stone, different plaster, different everything.
Yes, different everything.
The streets of Old San Juan were narrow and steep, climbing from the harbor up toward the forts at the tip of the peninsula. And under their feet, the cobblestones were remarkable, a deep blue violet, not quite the color of anything else, the color of a bruise going away or of the sky just after the sun sets in winter. In the morning light, they held the color differently at every angle you stepped.
This is extraordinary. These are dock wines, iron slag blocks from old Spanish colonial iron production, denser than natural stone. They were used as ship ballast coming across the Atlantic and repurposed for the streets when the ships arrived. The iron content gives them the chromatic variation. In direct sun, the oxidation presence is this. I would say it's somewhere between slate violet and midnight blue. It changes with the light.
Walter, you're examining the ground.
It's historically significant ground.
Has he always done that?
Since 1971, a sidewalk in Florence. He crouched down and looked at the stone for about 6 minutes while I waited with the luggage.
They're beautiful. They look like they remembered something the sea did.
That's exactly it, actually. They were in the sea in the hull.
They crossed the Atlantic in the dark and ended up as a street. That's a whole life.
Very poetic. Also very warm. Can we walk and admire at the same time?
Sal has a mofongo to find.
I have priorities, Connie. I am a man with priorities.
The street rose steeply enough that Dorothy took Gus's arm without being asked, which was its own kind of language. The buildings pressed in on both sides, yellow, turquoise, salmon, a particular deep blue-green that looked like someone had mixed the Caribbean into the paint. And above the roof lines, the sky was a clear white-hot blue, and ahead of them, growing larger as they climbed, the massive gray stone walls of the fort.
How old did he say?
1539. 473 years.
Lord, we were worried about our 45 years of marriage. That wall has been standing since before anyone in our family was born, in either direction.
Our 45 years are still worth worrying about.
Earl Washington, that is the most romantic thing you've said all month.
I have more where that came from.
The Castillo San Felipe del Morro stood at the very tip of the peninsula, 6 levels of gray stone ramparts dropping sheer to the sea on 3 sides, the harbor spread below it, and the open Atlantic beyond that. The grass esplanade in front of the fort was wide and flat and full of kite flyers, families with large, elaborate kites banking in the sea wind, a few professional-looking rigs with box frames, and one small girl flying something that might once have been a kite and was now mostly a question mark.
Now that is a fort. Loretta, look at that fort. That is what a fort is supposed to look like.
It is very large, Buck.
It is perfectly large. It is exactly as large as it needs to be.
The sentry boxes, those rounded turrets at the corners, the garita, they are original 16th century. The Spanish used them as watch points for enemy ships. You would have had a man in there in about 4 square feet of stone watching the horizon for hours at a time. Look, someone looked out of those holes at every ship that's ever come through this harbor. 400 years of ships.
That's a considerable amount of watching.
It is.
The sea wind-up on the esplanade was substantial, hats were in danger, and Buck put one hand on his Stetson in a preemptive and dignified way. A vendor near the gate was selling simple kites, bright red and yellow, and Buck bought one before anyone had a conversation about whether he should.
I have not flown a kite since 1978, and I have thought about it a lot more often than that.
You had a kite at 56.
I had a kite at 7, and again at 56, and now at 79. I recommend the interval for reflection. Loretta, hold the spool.
The air of a woman who has been through many things. I am holding the spool.
The kite went up on the second attempt, caught the Atlantic wind off the promontory, and climbed hard to the left over the harbor, over the water, over the centuries of ships coming in, over the small garita where a soldier had once watched for enemies, and now only the wind came through. Buck held the string with both hands and grinned so wide, it rearranged his whole face.
Gus, look at him.
Yeah.
He's 7 years old right now.
Yeah, he is.
The rain arrived the way Caribbean rain arrives. Not gradually, not with warning, not after consultation with anyone's plans. One moment the sky was blue and the next it had a texture, and a heartbeat after that it was raining hard and warm, the kind of rain that is not cold and so is not unpleasant exactly, but is thorough.
Now wait.
Buck. String.
I'm reeling, Loretta. I'm reeling.
They moved under the nearest archway as a compact and slightly wet unit, 12 people and one soggy kite seeking the shadow of stone that had sheltered people from weather since the 16th century. The rain hammered the cobblestones outside. They turned dark and vivid in the rain, the blue-violet intensifying to something almost purple, and the sound of it against the old stone was a long, specific percussion.
I'm just saying, Marco said sunny.
Marco said mostly sunny. He included a caveat.
Connie, the caveat was very small.
I love rain in a warm place. It's such an honest kind of rain. It's not trying to ruin anything. It just wants to say something, and then it's done.
That's a good way to put it.
I have a lot of thoughts about rain. You've never asked.
I'm asking now.
You're 48 years too late, but yes.
The color of those stones in the rain, look at that. That's something different.
It's like they remembered what they were. Iron from the sea. And now the rain is giving it back.
The rain was the kind that means something when you're standing in a 500-year-old archway of a Spanish colonial fort, and 12 people who chose to be here are very slightly damp and not minding it much. Walter Whitfield stood at the edge of the archway with his leather notebook pulled against his chest, dry inside, which was what mattered, and looked at the rain like a man calculating something.
Are you keeping it?
I'm keeping all of it.
The rain lasted 22 minutes. Walter noted the duration, and then stopped with the same finality it had started with, leaving the city washed and steaming and sharper in every color than it had been before. They walked down from the fort into the streets of the old city, and the world had been saturated by the rain. The yellow buildings were more yellow, the pink buildings impossible, the blue-violet cobblestones almost luminous in the afternoon light.
Mofongo. We're finding it. Mofongo is the priority.
Sal, we've been walking for 20 minutes.
Mofongo does not come to you, Connie. You go to it.
They found Mofongo. They found it at a small open-fronted restaurant near the Plaza de Armas, with 3 tables outside and a woman behind the counter who confirmed, after Sal's very specific questions about the garlic and the cracklings, that yes, she made it herself, yes, the plantains were from Puerto Rico, and no, she was not going to give him the recipe.
She's protecting the recipe. That's how you know it's the real thing.
Or she just doesn't want to talk to you.
Both can be true.
The plaza was shaded and still after the rain, the trees dark and dripping, the fountain going steadily. A group of men, 4 of them, retired-looking, comfortable in their chairs as men who have been coming to the same corner of the same plaza for a long time, were playing dominoes at a folding table under a canvas awning. The tiles clicked with the particular authority of something that has been done correctly for many years.
Now look at that.
Dominoes.
Look how they play. They're not talking. They're just playing.
That's how you play when you know what you're doing. The game is the conversation.
That looks like something I could do.
Buck, you don't play dominoes.
I don't play dominoes. Yet.
Is he going to go over there?
Yeah, he's going over there.
He did go over there. Buck Calhoun walked up to the domino table with the specific confidence of a man who has introduced himself to strangers in 47 states and several foreign countries, and never yet been turned away for long. He explained, in slow and friendly English with gestures that he hoped were universal, that he was interested in watching. The men at the table looked at him for a moment, a very large Texan in a white cowboy hat, and one of them pulled out a fifth chair and indicated it with a nod.
Gracias. Thank you. I appreciate the inclusion.
The game resumed. Buck watched with his full attention, which was considerable. After about 4 minutes, he leaned toward the man on his left, a compact, gray-haired man in a blue guayabera shirt, and said something quiet. The man nodded slowly. And then, with some additional negotiation involving hand gestures and the substitution of one of the other players who seemed willing to step out and eat something, Gus Lindquist was waved into a chair.
Gus is playing. I'm watching. That's the arrangement.
How did that happen?
Gus looks like a man who plays dominoes. I look like a man who watches dominoes while someone else plays them.
Gus played. He played with the same economy he applied to everything, considering each tile for a moment, placing it with quiet precision, offering nothing in the way of expression or commentary. The three men at the table adjusted to him quickly. There was something that passed between them. The language of a game understood the same way in Minnesota and Puerto Rico. And after a while, they were not 4 strangers and 1 visiting American, but 5 people playing dominoes in a plaza after the rain.
Look at Gus. He's right at home.
He always is. Anywhere with something that works the right way, Gus is at home.
That man has a gift for fitting in. How does he do that?
He doesn't announce himself, Sal.
I announce myself.
You do.
I'm going to think about that.
The game makes a good sound, the tiles, that clicking.
It's like a slow kind of rain.
Listen, thin slices of sound, each one almost nothing. Together they have a whole shape.
Walter!
Yes, sorry, I was somewhere else for a moment.
The domino game continued in its slow percussion. Someone at the restaurant had ordered coffee, small cups, strong, the Puerto Rican kind that smells like the whole island compressed into something the size of a thimble. Walter held his with both hands and looked at it, and then looked at the domino tiles, and then a leaner said his name quietly, and he looked at her.
It's the thin slices.
I've been thinking about her since Daisy told her story. I don't know why Daisy's story brought her back, but she did.
Tell us, Walter.
And Walter Whitfield, who was not in the ordinary habit of telling stories at tables, who was more likely to write observations in the margins of whatever he was reading, or to make a careful note, than to offer something to the general air, put down his coffee, and told them about Dorothea Baines.
It was the fall of 1968, my first year teaching. I was 25 years old and somewhat convinced that if I explained something clearly enough in the right order with sufficient rigor, any student would understand it. I taught introductory calculus.
I failed introductory calculus. Twice.
I know, Sal, you've mentioned it. There was a student in my class, Dorothea Baines. She was failing not for lack of effort. She came to office hours. She did the problem sets. She was trying very hard. But the concept of integration, of finding the area under a curve, would not come to her. She could do the mechanics. She couldn't see what they meant.
What does it mean?
Integration is essentially the act of breaking something continuous into infinitely many thin slices, each slice almost too small to measure, and adding all those slices together to find the whole. Each individual slice is essentially nothing. Together they give you something real, a total, a shape, a measure of what was there all along.
Thin slices.
A week before final exams, Dorothea came to my office at 4 in the afternoon. We worked for 3 hours. I tried every approach I had. Each time she would get the mechanics and lose the meaning. And then I don't know why I tried this. I hadn't tried it before. I said, listen, think about a piece of music, any music. If you cut it into slices, each slice just 1,000th of a second long, each one is almost silence. But you add all those slices together in order and you get the whole song, the shape of the music, what was actually there. That's integration.
He stopped. He looked at his coffee.
She was quiet for a moment, and then she said, oh, just that, oh, and I knew from the way she said it that she had it.
The domino tiles clicked. The plaza dripped. The coffee cups were empty.
She got a B on the final. I don't know if you know how gratifying a B can be in the right circumstances. That B was one of the finest grades I ever gave. And then she graduated and I didn't hear from her again.
He turned his coffee cup slowly on the table. The same gesture the table had noticed that Prescott Van Horn Roman III had used with his cocktail glass, the outward sign of thinking.
In 1992, I got a letter. I had been at the university for 24 years by then. Dorothea Baines had become a physician. She was an oncologist, a cancer specialist. She worked with imaging, CT scans, MRI. In the letter she wrote, I don't use calculus in my work, but I think about thin slices every time I look at a scan. Each slice is almost nothing. Together they show you exactly what is there. She asked if I remembered her. I wrote back the same day.
There's more.
She ended the letter with one sentence. The music analogy was the right one. I have thought about it most days since 1968.
The plaza was very quiet for a moment. The domino tiles had stopped. The gray-haired man in the blue guayabera shirt looked over at the group for a moment, something in his face that suggested he understood more of this than he was supposed to, or perhaps only that he understood the quality of a silence.
Walter. 24 years that letter traveled, and she never forgot the music.
Neither did I. I have used that analogy in every calculus course I have taught since 1968.
That is a very good story.
I want to tell you something about that night. The night after he taught Dorothea Baines. He came home at 8 o'clock, which was late for him. We'd only been married 3 years, and he made terrible tea, which he does when he's excited and not paying attention, and he paced around our apartment for about 20 minutes.
I don't remember the pacing.
You paced, and then he sat down and he said, I think something went right today. He didn't tell me what. He just said that, and he was so relieved, like he'd been worried that something might never go right and it had finally gone right today. Listen, this is what he's for, teaching. That's the thing he was made to do.
Walter looked at Alina for a moment.
You never told me that's what you thought.
I didn't need to. You already knew.
They walked the old city in the late afternoon, after the story, after the dominoes, after the bad good coffee, and the city had a different quality now than it had in the morning. The rain had done something to it. The pastel buildings were saturated, every color a shade past what it usually was, the yellow buildings almost orange, the pink buildings a deep coral, the turquoise shutters the color of a shallow reef. The cobblestones steamed lightly in the returning sun.
That color, that turquoise. Nobody does that from choice. It has to happen from 1,000 years of someone mixing the same thing and changing it slightly every time, until it becomes that.
It's the color the Caribbean is when you look at it from above, from a plane.
That's exactly what it is. Somebody looked at the water and then painted their door.
I love those two. I've said it before. I love those two.
They've been that way since I met them. Chuck looks at something, and he says the thing that's true about it. And then Daisy says the thing that's true about what he said.
They found their way to a street of small shops, and Sal stopped at a spice vendor with the particular absorption of a man who has found his people. He bought 3 things. Connie bought 2 things she didn't tell him about. Alina bought a small illustrated book of Puerto Rican botanical illustrations. Walter bought nothing but made several notes.
This is the color of the cobblestones. Someone made a bowl the color of the cobblestones.
You want it?
Very much.
How much?
Ruby Me had found a shaded bench at the end of the street, near a doorway where the sound of something, music, or someone humming was drifting out. She stopped walking. She stood very still and listened.
Do you hear that?
I hear it.
There's a note in there I want to follow.
The sound was coming from a courtyard through the open doorway, someone playing guitar. Nothing formal. The unhurried kind of playing that happens when a person is not performing for anyone. And under it, a hum. Someone else in the courtyard humming an approximate response, not quite harmonizing, not quite not.
I'm just going to stand here a moment.
Take your time.
Ruby Me stood at the edge of the doorway and listened. And then, in the way she had, the way that she had been doing it since childhood, on front porches and in church foyers and waiting rooms, and now apparently in the streets of old San Juan, she began to hum. Softly, just to herself, just to the note. The guitar continued. The other hummer in the courtyard shifted slightly, finding something. Ruby Me's hum found a third place in the sound. Not quite harmony, not quite unison, something between, the way 3 notes can coexist without becoming a chord. Something almost arrived. Then Buck Calhoun, who had been walking past carrying his folded kite and looking at the ceramics across the street, said in his full voice,
Loretta, look at this. They've got Texas Longhorn ceramics. Can you believe it?
The guitar stopped. The courtyard went quiet. The almost thing dissolved.
Buck.
What did I do?
Nothing. Come look at the Longhorn ceramic.
Ruby May. I broke something, didn't I?
You almost did. But almost doesn't count.
It almost happened.
Give it time. This city has been making sounds for 500 years. It'll try again.
The sun was lower now, the afternoon going golden, and they made their way back through the streets toward the dock. Near the harbor wall, where the old city met the water, you could stand and look back at the Via Oceanus where she sat in the bay, white and large and unmistakable, the biggest thing in any harbor she entered.
She looks different from here, from the outside.
She looks very white.
She looks like something you'd be glad to see coming from somewhere hard, doesn't she? Like if you'd been at sea for 3 weeks in the old days and you came around that headland
You would see the fort first.
And then the city. And then in the bay, something that looked like home. If you were going home.
The city behind them was in its late-day colors, the buildings deep amber and ochre and coral, the shadows long and blue on the cobblestones. The harbor smelled of salt and the slight diesel of working boats. Somewhere up on the hill, the gray walls of El Morro were turning gold.
That is a good ship. I've been on better ships. I had a sailing trip in '94, La Spezia. Very fine. But that ship is ours.
He's been on better ships.
I'm saying it's ours. That's a compliment.
I know, Sal.
You think we'll come back here?
Then at Earl, whether we come back, the universe generally keeps its options open.
Ruby May, I like the way you think.
Daisy Holloway, I have been saying that about you since January.
The Via Oceanus left San Juan at 8 o'clock, as the sky was going dark over the island and the city was lighting up, the pastel buildings becoming warm, amber-lit rectangles against the black hillside, El Morro a gray shape at the tip of the peninsula, its garita lit from below by some arrangement of floodlights that seemed designed specifically to remind you of the 473 years. Table 7 had gathered on the promenade deck to watch the departure. Antonio had materialized, as Antonio often did at important moments, with a tray of something cold.
For the departure.
Antonio, you're a considerate man. In 40 years of travel, I have not met a more considerate man.
You are an easy table to be considerate toward, Mr. Calhoun.
The city lights grew smaller. El Morro held longest, the old fort stubborn about remaining visible, the way something that has stood for 4 centuries knows it can afford to take its time about disappearing. And then it was the whole island, a dark shape with lights on it, and then a shape against stars.
She got a job in Milwaukee after the letter, after 1992. I know because she sent me a note. She led a hospital oncology department for 11 years. She retired in 2010.
You never told me that.
I filed it with all the things I know that I should probably say out loud more often.
Walter.
San Juan will keep making sound, even after we're gone. The guitar in that courtyard is still going, and the dominoes are still clicking in the plaza.
And that note I was following, it's still there too, going into the stone.
The island went dark against the sky. The stars came out with the particular authority of deep Caribbean water. The promenade deck was warm and still, 12 people watching something beautiful become a memory, which is the best thing a beautiful thing can do. The Via Oceanus ran on. On the next episode of Fun Cruise, we come back to the flashback track, because one of our 12 friends has a day to tell us about. It happens aboard on the promenade deck on a bright morning when a certain man in a cream linen suit first positioned himself in what everyone had quietly assumed was Table 7's preferred corner of the deck, and what happened when he did. Episode 13, The Deckchair Coupe. If you've sailed with us to San Juan today, leave a comment. What's the most beautiful thing you've ever watched from a ship's rail as it pulled away? Like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs a story today. We'll see you on the next one. Fun Cruise. Fun Cruise is an original audio series. New episodes every week. If someone in your life needs a good story, share the voyage. See you at Table 7. Thank you for sailing these miles of our cruise, along with our characters. See you in the next port. To be continued.